now that SummerSlam is over, now that everything is done and dusted, problems have surfaced, people are mad, people are enjoying themselves, and people are saying that this is better. This has been a better event than WrestleMania was this year, which it was. I'd say it was too. You know what I mean? We're gonna go over our favorite matches, some slight controversial, you know what I'm saying, happenings, and the best moment of the whole event of both nights, which was very revolutionary, very visionary. So the Usos fam, they had defeated Braun. Great match. Best moments I would probably say was probably when Roman did that dive, overdid it, but saved himself with that flip. It was such a good save. The 2020's Roman Reigns is such a real star compared to how he was really booked in 2015. Not even booked more, how he's received from fans. The Bloodline Roman Reigns, the OTC Roman Reigns, the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. Insane dude, bro. Jey Uso though, he ran it back. He definitely ran back his theme song in the middle of the match, which Bronson Reed almost had Roman Reigns' shoes again. Paul Heyman could have been done and ready for the Met Gala next year, wearing Roman Reigns' shoes around his neck and that nice watch he has on his wrist. I feel like the best element for this, when we talk about psychology, we talk about in-ring, we talk about star power, we talk about impact. I feel like star power is probably the best one that they had. And the in-ring actually was so decent too. I don't feel like we had enough impact on storylines. And I don't feel like psychology was there, but it wasn't really like what the main event of night 2 was. Or even night 1's main event. In that match, I also predicted that Roman and Jey would win. I was right, but I was wrong with a few other matches. I would say for Survivor Series, Roman's gotta be just in the War Games. I don't feel like they'll have enough time, unless they do John Cena versus Roman Reigns. I don't feel like there's enough time to build a story, which is why we also had this type of match at SummerSlam this year. Jey Uso, I don't know what's next for Big Bro, but I hope that the Usos get back together this year. It's time. Get Jimmy his US title match. Have him lose it at WrestleMania or Royal Rumble. And then the Usos, bring them back. They need to come back ASAP. For the women's tag, the Maybe Friends, possibly Friends, versus the Judgment Day. I was right about this match too. I said that the Maybe Friends will win. Because I said that we need a reason for Roxanne and Liv Morgan to have a type of feud that they're going to have when Liv comes back from injury. Obviously, we still had a reason. Win or lose, we had a reason. Because you could just go off purely jealousy. You could go off, oh, since I've been gone, you got a new Liv Morgan. Alright, let's see that in the ring then. But having them lose the tag team championships just adds more fuel to the flames. I feel like this match probably, star power was there psychologically. I believe it didn't deliver psychologically too much. Star power, it did well. In-ring was cool. Impact was probably the biggest thing that it had. Because that does well for the Judgment Day feud. That does something for Alexa and Charlotte. That also does something more for something a little bit more important right now. The women's tag titles. Because they need, that tag title needs a reason to be as popular as the SmackDown. Not even as popular as Raw right now. So I think we're just going to keep that. Either the Maybe Friends will have a long reign or keep changing hands at every PLE. Because I also feel like if we do that, tag titles start to become more starts to have more spotlight on it, more attention, more care. If you just have decent matches where these belts are involved, there we go. I also think, because my prediction was right, I also said at Survivor Series we could have the Maybe Friends versus Not Yet tag team in Zelina Vega and Julia. Stay with me, because it's not November yet. Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross in-ring was cool. The impact didn't deliver. Psychology was cool as well. But the impact, no. I feel like if Sami was to win, he should have done it in a heel manner. If Karrion Kross was to win, he should have done it as Sami became heel. Sami should have turned heel for like cool 2 months. Just so that this match really had more aura, we should say. Because it didn't deliver too much. So that Karrion Kross versus CM Punk also goes out the window for 2 matches. The results of 2 matches. But they could use that match at SummerSlam to have Karrion Kross be like an oh my god moment this year. Just like giving him a title match, having him win one of those matches. That's probably what they're trying to pull off. Because WWE also know that people have phones, people are talking online. The IWC, like the real big content creators, for me, that's the great one that Santi's up, that's Mini Portable. These are people that are talking about Karrion Kross right now. And it just gives them more to deliver with Karrion Kross. Alright, so Tiffany versus Jade also didn't deliver too much. We should have seen somebody turn heel. That didn't happen, unfortunately. That person being Bianca Belair. That's what I predicted. Did not happen. But Tiffany winning, which was my prediction. I feel like a match with Chelsea Green at Survivor Series, or the whole feud with Chelsea Green leading up to Survivor Series for the big match, that would honestly do numbers. I feel like that's the feud that we need to see. I feel like they correlate well. Similar styles, similar personalities, put them together and that's a fire feud. That's the next thing that we should see from Tiffany Stratton. For Jade Cargill, probably within the big three. That's Jade versus Naomi versus Bianca Belair. Whether that happened in War Games or that happened as an actual match, only time will tell. That Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul match versus Jelly Roll and Randy Orton. Hey, the in-ring was great. The Ray-Bans on with the damn Clash of the Primes, jumping onto that announce table. Great moment. Jelly Roll did that business. Jelly Roll did that business. Great match. Not too much impact. Not too much psychology. They obviously did sell it. And then having, instead of Randy Orton win, we had Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul actually win. I believe that we can see Jelly Roll in future matches. Not every single PLE, but we will see him WrestleManias, probably Royal Rumble spots over there in Saudi. But not too much happens off the back of this match because it doesn't really further nothing. It really just more for Logan Paul and Jelly Roll than it is for anybody else. That main event of night one, not only was it great from the fact that it was Gunther versus CM Punk, actually decent match to the point where if CM Punk would have walked out with that championship, it would have been a beyond great finish. But then having Seth Rollins cash in, dropping them crutches, taking off that knee brace, the best moment of SummerSlam this year at least. Probably even last year. Probably even, you know what I mean? Probably this decade is probably the best moment. Then my boy Seth Rollins come in, bro. He curve stumped that boy CM Punk. Seth Rollins took that championship home before football could ever. Which obviously, bring football back home, please. But, you know what I'm saying? That also means I get to see him when I go to watch the Road to Clash in Paris. You know, that's my boy. No need for Braun. In fact, I feel like that video where you see Braun Breaker selling an injury is to trying to remind the people who saw that Seth Rollins was supposed to be injured too. So psychology goes through the roof. Power goes through the roof. The in-ring performance goes through the roof. And the impact goes through the roof. And guess what? It was MetLife. Yes, they closed the roof. They had to close this roof. Yo, am I tripping? They closed the roof. Or am I just like... Am I a bit slow? Because I believe from one match that's bright to the next one where it's just like pitch black, I don't think that works. In summertime as well. I think they closed the roof for main events. So they closed that roof and then they blew it off again. Night 2 started off crazy because having none of the women's championship matches basically in the nighttime is insane. Main card, the upper card titles. But it also keeps that momentum. It starts off that momentum right for the whole night. And when it comes to the mid-card titles that they would have, that also adds to that momentum, not letting it fall off. Unfortunately, one match did that for me though. And it wasn't a women's match. It was a match that should have been a bit more crazier. But that Naomi versus Io versus Rhea Ripley, that was a decent match. Obviously, you got the in-ring. Off rip, you got the in-ring. Io Sky, the best one at it. Star power, that's for Rhea Ripley. The impact is on Naomi, bringing her dad with the damn guitar. Psychology was great too. You had Naomi selling the vicious side of her that we obviously wouldn't have got 8 years to her last SummerSlam match before this. Io and Ripley having a friendly fight, and then also I still have to beat you from Rhea Ripley's perspective. Then that way that they ended it too, being that they knew what the story was and they executed that so well and delivered that so well with how the match actually ended. Having Rhea go for that. I think Rhea took the riptide off of the second turnbuckle. It's actually hard to remember. But Rhea was supposed to finish that match, it looked like. And then Naomi comes behind and then just grabs the tights. No disqualification. All legal. 1, 2, 3. That's a wrap. That's Naomi retaining, as it should be. Only because of how that Money in the Bank win was a milestone. That cash-in was a milestone. That win was a milestone. This retain, milestone. So they need to keep this as a big moment. And then maybe, honestly, keep it till WrestleMania at this point. We're nearly done with this year. There's no real reason for Naomi to lose. Then we're going to have that Bianca versus Naomi match versus Jade. SmackDown Division Tag Team ladder match, the TLC match. My prediction won. You know what I'm saying? Let's get it in. But that's not me saying that I called it, because it could have been anybody, and I was honestly hoping that Fraxium would take the victory. But White Six honestly need it. They are starting to lose the most important word this year, aura. They're starting to lose aura. So they need to build themselves up with being the ones holding the SmackDown tag titles. What we got from the beginning of that bell to the end of that bell was chaos. Only described as chaos. Because you got everybody involved. You had B-Fab and Candice LeRae, obviously, from the damn sky into another ladder. Great line, I would say that, because obviously when they slow it down, if you're aware that WWE is unreal, you start to be more aware of how these artists are performing, how this talent is performing. Obviously, turning over to a side when going down would have been better for her impact. Better landing, but would have not felt great. In real life, Nikki Cross got involved. Uncle Howdy did. Eric Rowan. This was a decent match, bro. This is probably one of the top 10. This is like top 10 of the whole year. Involving this tag team. Why are Raw so bad, though? Why is Raw Tags Division so dog shit, bro? Why? I don't get that. You have the New Day, who don't need to be the tag team champions, but are the best tag teams that you have. LWO, who's pretty decent too. Alpha Academy, they're decent, but they need a bit more like personality in a sense. You have a couple, but all of these teams are still vital to make your division as good as Nick Aldis' division. Then again, SmackDown also does have the better teams. But if you're able to get the New Day take them Raw titles back, then have an actual feud with the Vision, being Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Real heated feuds somehow. Do that. People start to care. There's no type of care. These are intermission matches. SmackDown though, you know what I'm saying. Mid-card, women's mid-card, where we have Becky Lynch as the Intercontinental Champion versus Lyra Valkyria. Obviously Becky retaining. New theme song, same belt. This started to slow the night down a little bit. It did. And the in-ring outside of this particular moment was decent, and it was great. Them zip ties though. They had a moment with the zip ties. I think Becky had suplexed her Manando Slam. Them zip ties come off of Lyra Valkyria. Lyra Valkyria noticed this and puts them back on. And I understand and I forgive. And honestly, outside of that one moment, great match, but damn, that honestly threw it off, because then she just puts them back on, and then you're just like, so you have the zip ties on, you try and use the sharp end of the fire extinguisher. Failed to use that, which I can understand. Crawled under the ring to get ring crew. Everything outside of that moment was great though. Both ends. What actually saved that, what saved Lyra Valkyria and this match after that incident, was when she did like the sled drop onto Becky Lynch from the table. Bayley did make an appearance. Bayley definitely did make an appearance. She did not turn heel, which doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that she didn't turn heel. We're probably going to see something at Clash in Paris. Probably going to see something tonight on Raw. Great match. Great feud it has been. Unfortunate zip tie moment. But what made the energy, the aura of this whole event dip down for a good minute? Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa in a steel cage match, which sounds great on paper, but goddamn was it a bore fest. I write with both talents. Solo is a great personality. Jacob is that too, but also a great in-ring character too. They had moments where they was at that point, but bro, no. Not this match, no. I would honestly prefer it outside of a steel cage match. where the winner is the one who gets into the steel cage match. Let's not do steel cages unless it's real, unless you have a real idea of how to pay it off, because it was not good. It was the worst match of the whole event. And Solo Sikoa ends up retaining that title too. We weren't supposed to get anything. My prediction was that Jimmy Uso helps Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu wins. Obviously MFT involved there as well, but Jacob Fatu takes the win. Then we get to see that feud for the mid-card title, the US title, between Jimmy and Jacob Fatu. Jimmy eventually wins that a Survivor Series. Jimmy now has the US title, which we're actually waiting for. Or at least I am. I don't know about you personally. I don't even know who the fuck you are personally. Then after Jimmy ends up losing the US title, both of the Usos have had the solo reigns, that they eventually have the Usos be a team again, because that is exactly what they are both missing. The Usos not being a team took the whole character, honestly, about these two. They had a cool moment. Jimmy not had it paid off yet. Starting to hurt Jimmy as a character. We need a real payoff, bro. Jimmy should have that US title reign, then lose it, then the Usos. But at this point, if they just want to jump back into the Usos, because Raw needs a real tag team division, go ahead. You're bringing up Tony D'Angelo. He's probably going to be on Raw. Have Jimmy come over to Raw. Have the Usos win the tag team. Honestly, make that tag division better. The Usos versus New Day, like the good old days, but with more aura. On one of the greatest tag team shoots of all time was the Usos versus New Day. Let's go back to that in the way that we have them both now. Obviously, stronger personalities than they was even back then. Unless you have that idea written down of Jimmy Uso being the US champion. If you don't have that to pay off, don't stretch this out for any longer. Just bring these back together. There's no actual reason for them to be solo like stars. They don't need to be that. Yes, they are good individuals, but they work so much better as a team. Promos start to get better on Raw. In the tag division, the matches start to get better on Raw in the tag division. Star power as well. Just do it. Stop with the whole... They don't need to be on separate brands. They don't need to be separate stars. They can just be the Usos. And honestly, at this point, while we're at it, just bring back the face paint. Dominic Mysterio versus AJ Styles, bro. Like that. Decent payoff. Cool. Very good match. It could have been better. It was already at a certain point, just within these two stars, that it didn't actually need an interference from the Judgment Day. It didn't need the Bullet Club. Didn't even need Rey Mysterio in there. And he's injured. So the match, what we did have from the AJ Styles versus Dominic Mysterio match. Great performance. Great in-ring. Great psychology. Hilarious. You had Dominic actually tapping into that Eddie Guerrero. We need to see more of that, because it actually makes Dominic look so much better than he can already perform outside of that. When his shoe came off, the chair moment, his retain was very necessary, because that makes Dominic look better for himself. And AJ Styles doesn't need to be mid-card champion after 2017. But when he does that, eventually get there, he gets there. That's if he gets there, to be fair, because he's only got 1 year left. He's going to be on TNA pay-per-views. Leon Slater versus AJ Styles. Let's get that. Let's honestly have AJ Styles' retirement run filled with valuable matches. Never feels out of place. Alright, Cody Rhodes versus John Cena, the last match of SummerSlam. Honestly, the best match of SummerSlam, because John Cena turned face. Cody Rhodes keep face. Honestly, that sounded funny, but since Travis Scott landed that, you know what I'm saying, it's honestly a good thing that he keeps face. Shout out to Travis, though. I cannot disrespect the hip hop legend. We're just talking wrestler base. No heel turns, no type of Rock return, no type of Scott return. The only return that we got was actually insane, and eventually he got cleared. I don't know if that's a real situation, if he is genuinely cleared. Not from injury, but it does hurt his... Not from injury, but it does hurt his reputation. Brock Lesnar actually ended up returning last minute, before we got the news that he was cleared. We should have got that beforehand, but then it would have also spoiled the return. It's kind of insane. It's a mismatch. It's a lost communication, but match between Cody and John Cena itself delivered on so many levels, bro. Because as soon as John Cena came down with the actual colored Titron, we got Super Cena back. Cody Rhodes to the crowd instantly becomes heel. Just off riff. Like they acted like they wasn't even singing this song when Cody Rhodes actually came out. Just started instantly booing. And heavy too. As many people that was there 95% of them was the people that were booing Cody Rhodes after singing this song. Definitely delivered. We had that trapdoor moment where I thought that Cena was like, I fooled you with the face that he was having. I feel like it was a decent payoff too because Cody Rhodes ends up winning that championship. After the salute, we ended up getting that payoff fair enough. And then an over delivery, not with The Rock, not with Scott, but with Brock. That ends up taking place and having the IWC in a lost state of mind, in a New Jersey state of mind. So honestly, like, if I had to give like this whole event, this whole SummerSlam, both nights, a rating out of 10, I would say that it was, I'll give it an 8. For the whole event, I'll give it an 8. The 2 points are taken off from being a whole 10 because of the steel cage match. And probably the Sami Zayn versus Karrion Kross match. And that wasn't even like a bad match. It just didn't have no type of payoff. No type of real, like, I'm excited to see what Sami Zayn and Karrion Kross are doing. Nobody cares no more. Well, we care about Karrion Kross, and we obviously want to see Sami Zayn wrestle. But, like, it comes to the storyline that these two are in, we're not really interested. We need something else to take place for both of them. So, cool 8 out of 10. Better than WrestleMania, yes. That's me. That's like, comment, subscribe. That's SummerSlam. That's both nights. That's me again. That's